Hey friends, Cameron here with a quick announcement before the episode today. Just letting you know that we've started to post the photos that we discuss in the podcast to an Instagram page where you'll see a set of photos and you can flick through the ones that we discuss in this episode and future episodes. So the Instagram is Shoot First Podcast, and there'll also be a link to more comprehensive show notes on that Instagram page. Or if you are listening on your desktop, you can go to our Spreaker page, and in the comments there, you'll see where we've linked, certain topics or certain photos that we've discussed. So you can sort of follow along. You can see what we're going on about. And yeah, so we're just giving that a trial. It's something that we sort of planned on doing, but only really got around to it now. And also thanks to listener Mark Gould for giving us some tips in how to do it. Let us know if you have any more feedback. Anyway, let's get to it. Hey, this is Shoot First, Questions Later, an informative and mildly entertaining photography podcast with a raw Aussie flavour. I'm Cameron, and here with me, as always, William Patino.
I just can't take the intro seriously anymore.
All right.
But anyway, yeah. Hey guys, thanks for tuning in yet again.
And
Episode 7.
We're sitting comfy on the lounge. We've got our coffee.
Yeah.
It's a bit late this evening.
It is late, so apologies in advance if this goes downhill really quick. Although
it can't
I
be
felt
worse
like last
than
episode
week.
went downhill very quick, so hopefully it can't get much worse.
Well, yeah, last week we made some big promises of plans that we had coming up, and so yeah, we can talk about a bit of that. Will, what did you take photos of in the last week?
Okay. I had no idea what you were talking about for a second. I was like, what? A new segment or something? Yeah, last week, big week for photography. The past few days, I had a job in the Blue Mountains in Sydney, shooting for a tourism client. Had the pleasure of hosting a few other photographers in the region. Well, they're from Queensland actually, but hosted them in the Blue Mountains because I've been there a few times before. And man, although I have been there many times over the years, this trip really kind of opened my eyes up to the beauty of the Blue Mountains, particularly just trying to get away from the standard locations there and the things that I've personally seen quite a few times. And
yeah, you kind of imagine standing on top of the lookout and looking out over the range when you think of the Blue Mountains.
Yeah,
but
the Three Sisters.
You were down the bottom.
Hey, let me tell you something, Cameron. Let me just cut in there. The beauty of the mountains is not so much about what's above, but what's below, my friend. Because yes, we did. We done a bit of canyoning, and the whole Blue Mountains has. I think there's over 160 canyons up there, and we, of course, we just done a relatively simple canyon that we hiked through. But yeah, there's a bit of abseiling involved. So we done the Grand Canyon, which is just a really nice hike to do anyway. But of course, there's a section where you can get off the track, abseil down below. I think it's about 12 meters or so into the canyon, and then we essentially hiked and rock scrambled and swam our way out and back to meet up on the track. But just such an eye opener, dude.
Nothing makes you appreciate nature more than the fear of death.
Exactly.
Falling into a canyon
and freezing cold water in April. The water was freezing. We had 5 mil wetsuits on, and they admittedly went pretty good, but the fingers, they were feeling it. There was a few sections, there was one long section about 30 meters in length. The water's overhead height, so there's no way you can wade through it or anything, and yeah, it just takes your breath away. But man, just so... Admittedly, I didn't really get any amazing photos by far. Like, I had visions in mind of the type of photos I'd hope to capture. Definitely didn't get any of that, purely because of the lighting conditions and just the fact that even because we were swimming, we had dry bags for all our camera gear. We had double dry bagged everything, so it's quite time consuming just to pull a camera out of these bags and then put them back in, because these bags have to be rolled, you push the air out, etc., etc. So, but from an experience point of view, man, this is up there. That was it was really enjoyable, really fun, and something I'd hope to do again down the track.
When you were in the canyon, I saw some of a little preview of your photos, but it looked like there was, the water trickling down and the textures on the rocks on the side of the canyon.
Yeah,
Is that like what you were looking for when you were kind of setting up your shots?
Yeah, there was a few things I saw. I was like, this is a beautiful photo here. But there was one, I'm just kicking myself because we had a private guide take us through. We had a bit of a time schedule because we wanted to get out in time to go shoot the sunset somewhere. And we got down the abseil is the very first thing you do. Or we done a hike for maybe 2 kilometers max, and then we abseiled and we were in the canyon. And that probably the first 10 minutes to me was the most photogenic. However, I had the mindset of, we'll just push on for a little bit before we get the cameras out. And then, looking back, it's like, oh man, that first section was killer. Yeah, there was a few little waterfalls, even just like cascades that dropped down into pools. And I remember looking back as the guys behind me were coming through, and I was like, this just looks sick. Like, really beautiful frames to shoot here. And cascades, waterfalls, and just those beautiful textures on the canyon walls. But kind of just push through those bits, thinking that it might get better as we went along. And it definitely got, not necessarily better. It got quite epic, but not. Anyway, not what I had in mind. But we'll go back. You got to come with me because we've spoken
really
about this,
keen,
and I kind of felt like a dog because
nah.
we were talking about it, and then I ended up getting it to do this job. But it's actually a good thing because now I've got an idea. We can do this without abseiling. You can kind of do the trek in reverse and get in there. But I just had a few ideas in mind, abstract stuff, standard landscape stuff, and just didn't get there. But anyway.
Did you get any shots in the canyon sort of with a person in the shot for scale?
That's like there's a few guys here that have got beautiful photos like that with someone for scale. I think there's a Sydney guy, Lewis Fogarty, my friend Jake Anderson. Really nice shots like that of people. So that was one thing that the other guys definitely had in mind. For me, I actually wanted to avoid that shot because that's, I think we spoke about that in a previous episode. That's the obvious shot, which definitely works. It's beautiful, but I was kind of I wanted to get away from that easy one. Although it was in the back of my mind the whole time, like, oh, there it is. I was like, nah, try to think away from that. I did still get 1 or 2 shots like that just for the client, just a bit more commercial.
Yep.
And it definitely works. It gives that scale. And
well, that's mainly why I asked, because we're talking about it, but I can't really even picture how deep these canyons are. How high in meters?
Yeah, like I said, I think what we abseiled down was roughly 12 meters.
Oh, okay.
If we're talking feet, then good luck trying to figure that out. Maybe like 40 feet, I guess. Quite large. And then it just obviously varied as we kept on hiking through. But get that person in there, and it really kind of brings it to life and help people appreciate the sheer size of this. And this is just one of, like I said, many varied canyons up there. But it's totally changed my perspective on what we have right in the backyard of Sydney. Like that, the Blue Mountains is still Sydney. There's so much up there, a lot of wilderness, and man, pretty keen actually. Keen to get back up, try again.
And I've been to the Blue Mountains with you before, but that was a while ago, hey.
Yeah,
and
that was a long time.
Yeah, and so I kind of don't really count it in a way. So I'd love to go out there and take a serious go at doing that place justice.
Yeah, we even took the effort to kind of get around the opposite side of some of the valleys to just kind of get different points of view. And there's so many amazing big sheer vertical cliffs there that just make for stunning photos, and ones that you just don't really see very often. There's a mountain called Mount Banks, so we kind of drove around to that side of the valley, and I was able to see stuff that I personally haven't really seen before, and it was quite refreshing because, as you said at the start, when you say Blue Mountains, there's just a lot of certain images that come to mind, and this trip I felt like, I was seeing stuff for the first time, so beautiful. Good little plug here for the Blue Mountains. I'm being paid to say this by Tourism New South Wales. No. What was fun actually, while you're having that mind blank, he's doing his mind blank face, but because it was for me mainly a commercial shoot, which I do on rare occasions, it was just nice to not of course, I was always looking for stuff that personally fulfilled me as a photographer, like from a landscape perspective, but just being able to have fun shooting people in the environment, and it's really fun to just do that from time to time. And of course, I put effort in, but at the same time, it's just a nice chance to not be so critical about what I want to do as a landscape photographer and just chill a bit and just do a bit more, like essential commercial work, people looking out over valleys and things like that.
And because you're with those people who are your friends and that, like, it's easy to have fun and
exactly,
and just have a good time.
Yeah, my friend Jason Charles Hill, Emily Rostevsky, Melissa Finley, and Larissa Denning, all those guys who, are all great photographers in their own right. Really big followings on social media themselves, which is a testament to their work. And they're all cool. They're just into it, and everyone works together, and it's fun working with people who are in the industry as well and understand what is involved in getting shots. And it was good fun.
Not really being in that industry myself, I've had the chance to hang out with those guys, like some of those guys you mentioned,
that's
and
right.
it is really it's really cool seeing yourself and those other guys and the professionalism that you have in those jobs. But I suppose that's a topic for another day. But
I was also going to mention there, which probably for another day, but how in the social media world it's very easy to judge someone based on their social media pages and kind of jump to conclusions and essentially judge these people like, I bet you they are blah blah blah, or this and that. And then when you meet them, it's, from my experience, and I've known these guys before, so I'm not necessarily talking about these dudes, but people, it's just a shame that we judge people by what we see on social media, when most often than not, from my experience, most people are really genuine and awesome and not probably what you assume.
Yeah, I'll be the first to admit I'm guilty of that, definitely.
It sucks, doesn't it?
Yeah.
You just look at someone's photos or the number next to their name or what they write in their captions, and you can just jump to these. Yeah. And it's usually negative as well. Anyway, we'll keep that for another day, I think.
I just wanted to ask one other question about the Blue Mountains. What, apart from being in the canyons, when you got out from the canyons, was there any other standout location that you went to take photos? I saw there was some trees, there was some cliffs.
Nothing jumping to mind, but what is jumping to mind was we stayed at this. It's probably not even going to come across as funny, but one of the accommodations we stayed at was a wilderness lodge, like a cabin basically, and this place is kind of in the middle of nowhere. We had no phone reception. The instructions to get there were like 25 steps long, and we eventually got there. We're kind of running late, and everyone's really tired. We're doing big days, and we finally get to this place, and it's like straight out of a horror movie. Like, there's us four in the car, or five of us, sorry, and we finally go down this long, windy driveway. It's pitch black. We're all famished. We haven't eaten all day because we had to skip dinner because we're just too busy taking photos. And this place is just amongst the trees, big cabin house, and then all the lights are on inside. And it just looks like you're just waiting to see something at the window, something freaky. And we walk in and everything's real quiet. And then randomly this motorbike comes down the driveway and we're just like, this is the part we all die now. Like, this is where we get picked off one by one. And it was actually the owner of the cabin, and his name was Lionel, but Jason confused it with Neil, so he told us his name was Neil. So we're all calling him Neil to his face, which... And he was he was quite a character, put it that way. I think he's lived in the mountains his whole life. Another thing we did, probably another highlight, was in that same area, so Woolamai, I think that's how you pronounce it, Woolamai National Park. We checked out some glowworms late at night. There's a guy there that just runs a little glowworm tour, which is on this Lionel's property. He owns like 600 hectares over there, but man, there was just this massive colony of glowworms growing basically just in the rainforest. There was a few limestone, sandstone walls, and just millions of them. Is insane. It was really beautiful to behold, like awesome. Going in there in the pitch black, and just they're so bright. It's insane.
Did you take any photos? I mean, we know that glowworms are a bit hard to photograph.
Took tight shots of the glowworms, but we all wanted to get that human element. That's something where the human element would go really well to give the scale, especially this huge wall. However, the guys built a platform right in front of the wall with big steel handrails on it, so visitors can step up and get a nice close inspection.
But yeah,
and it just killed it photography-wise. It just smashed it, unfortunately. So we had a few, like the canyon, we had these ideas in mind, and then the reality, it just ended up being quite difficult. But that's all part and parcel with photography.
And we might even talk a little bit about
what a segue into the question. But however, what about you, my friend? Photography this week?
Yeah, so I mentioned last week I went to Western Australia for a bit to visit family out in the countryside over there. And
because you lived there for a while.
Yeah, in 2015, I think I lived there.
Good enough.
Yeah, close enough.
Who will know?
And yeah, that was really good. I mean, apart from the fun of seeing family and whatnot, it was good to take some photos in some new locations, and I did get a couple little favourites.
Okay. Yeah, I haven't seen anything yet, so I'm intrigued.
There's this hill that I always loved going to when I lived there at sunset time. It's just this really big hill, and it looks down on more hills, basically, like kind of rolling.
Yeah, I know the place. Yep.
Yeah, so we were there, and I had my 100 to 400 mil, and it was sunset, and I was just looking out at all the green hills.
It's nice layers.
Yeah, and I spotted sort of these. It was kind of like a little arch or a semicircle of these dead white trees just emerging from the green ones surrounding it.
Yeah.
And like I looked at it and thought, it's pretty far away. I'll see how close I can get. And yeah, the 100 to 400 just nailed it.
Yeah.
Like it just got right in there, and so I was able to do...
It's amazing how telephotos you can see, like with your eyes, obviously. Well, of course you see with your eyes. Yeah, you just see something so small in the distance that normally you wouldn't even consider could create a frame, and then you put a big telly on and you're like, whoa, that's just created this piece.
Yeah, and that day taught me a good lesson about that lens, because I'm still really learning how to use those focal lengths.
Yeah.
Like, it's something I'm not used to.
And knowing that you can create a frame like that. Yeah.
So it's really fun, like sort of getting to know a new focal length in that way. And anyway, so yeah, I zoomed in, and because I was so tight, and there was like a lot of nice compression from the focal length, I was at 400 mil. It meant that these trees were really standing out, and they actually looked tall.
Yeah.
So I did I wanted more space, more green around these white trees. So I did a vertical panorama to create some space that I'll stitch together. And yeah, I haven't really.
I think the question that the listeners are wondering, and myself, Cameron, was it dead trees surrounded by the living, or was it the living surrounded by dead?
Jeez, we might have to
too deep
dedicate a whole
podcast
series to that.
I did apologise. This could be a bad episode. These are the things you got to think about. What's the story you're telling?
Maybe I'll write that as the caption when I finish the photo. Steal your material.
Yes, I like that.
But yeah, anyway,
half full, half empty type of attitude. Anyway.
I'm really excited to stitch that together and have a look at it, because there's a bit of side light as well from the really low sun.
Yeah.
And yeah, so
how refreshing is just stepping out of your local area to photograph.
Yeah.
And I know it's something that not everyone's privileged to do. I understand that, but it just really helps the creativity, doesn't it?
Yeah, it just kind of gives you like a spark or something, just like a little push in a direction, and that's encourage me coming back here to, just keep searching.
I just realised there's a napkin on your microphone. Why? Oh, okay, so the holder.
It's to wipe the coffee from my mouth in between talking.
Sorry.
And
it's trying to bring it to life for those listening.
Yeah. One day we'll just set up a GoPro in the corner.
Yeah. No. We'd have to wear pants then. No, just wouldn't. Cool. So you got a few keepers from the trip.
Yeah, hopefully, yeah. And, there were some nice sunsets at the beach when we went into the coast here and there. So, yeah, all in all, good trip.
Beautiful trip.
Yeah.
That's good. It's been a big week for everyone involved.
Yeah. So, hopefully...
So it's all downhill from here.
Yeah, pretty much.
That's good.
But yeah, let's push on to our next little section. And we've got a question here that... Yeah, it's good that we've kind of already touched on the topic, but Will, why don't you?
Yeah, it's kind of relevant to what we've been speaking about. So this is from Trent Blackmore. Now, just a quick word on old Trent here. Trent was the best man at my wedding many years ago now.
How many?
It's embarrassing. Well, if I get it wrong, I'll look terrible. No, 8 years ago. And Trent actually was very influential in me getting into photography in the first place. Just a very quick background on Trent. He creative guy, used to be a graphic designer, and then got into photography, just shooting real estate photography. And eventually, that was for a company. Then he started his own business, still doing real estate as the bread and butter, but then got into just more commercial type stuff. And now he's doing video and everything like that. However, we used to skateboard together for a good decade. That's how we became friends. And he used to shoot us skating, and my mate Sam, who sponsored, he's an incredible skater. And I remember as I was starting to slow down with skateboarding, I still wanted to hang out with the boys. So we had the first DSLR I ever owned, just sitting at home in the cupboard, not really using it. And I thought, I want to come on this skate trip with the boys over the weekend. But I don't really feel like skating that much because I was just getting too old, basically, probably 24 at the time, but just wasn't feeling it. But I thought, I'll take the camera and maybe just try to take some photos for fun. And I remember taking one photo of my friend Sam. This is all just in auto mode, obviously, with the camera. And Trent just gave me he was just really nice and said, man, that's a really good photo. And he was almost jealous because, he was in a different position to where I was taking the photo. And he just said, that's a really good shot. You've done good. And those positive words there really just went a long way. And from there, he just kept on just encouraging me, really, with photography. And there was one particular time where he kind of just showed me how the light meter worked on the camera because I was a bit confused. And
it blew your mind.
Yeah, it just blew my mind.
I remember when I first learned that, and I was like, what?
Yeah, it just blew me away. And it was just those little snippets of advice and words that he said. I really don't know if I'd be a photographer without him just doing that. So anyway,
yeah, he's
that's my man Trent, and he's hit us up here with a nice question. He's basically saying, quick question for you both. When shooting for a client to a brief, especially when shooting something that relies on nature, i.e. landscapes, how do you creatively tackle the brief when nature is working against you? Big question. I think I say that every week, actually. Big question. It's not even really that big of a question, to be honest.
Well, I feel like
it's a good one, though.
We get these big questions because, I don't know, the people listening are giving
big
us
people.
Good questions. Yeah, so...
The media the questions are better, definitely. Okay, what are your thoughts? I know you're not shooting professionally. However, of course, there's times where you've had an idea in mind or a concept and nature's working against you. So how do you essentially overcome that? Let's pretend you're traveling, so you're not going to be able to try again the next day or the next week. You've got to make it work. It's a tough one because, let's face it, there's some scenarios where it's just, I've got a perfect one, really. A tourism job I did maybe 12 months ago up in the Whitsundays in Queensland, which is some of the most beautiful, clearest tropical waters out there. We're on Hayman Island, which is a very fancy island. Very expensive, luxurious. And this is the type of place where blue skies, beaming sun just makes it look amazing. This is what it is. That's what everyone knows it for. I think I had 3 nights there. Rained every single day, every single night. And so Trent's saying here about when you're shooting a client brief, how do you get around it? My brief was make the place look good. And nature completely done that 180 on me. And you're right, I was up against the ropes. I was forced to think as creative as possible. And this is where photography can be incredibly... although it's frustrating, the rewards can be just as high, just as equal.
Yeah.
And for sure, I was bummed. I'm not going to lie about it. I was like, man, this is this is terrible. How am I going to get around it? But yeah, it really forced me to think outside the box and go, okay, everyone knows it for these blue skies and everything, but how can I maybe just show people another side that is still appealing at the same time? And I guess it just forced me to just look at things differently instead of looking at the grand scale. Maybe as far as landscapes and nature go, I began to look for the macro world, or the smaller things. instead of getting the sky and shots, more just focusing on water, or went into the rainforest. There's a bit of a rainforest on the island, so it was an opportunity to go in there, which thrives in the rain.
In the
obviously.
rain, yeah, everything's
and
sort of
I
glistening.
never knew there was a rainforest there, because 99% of photographers aren't shooting that. They're out in the sun getting the beautiful water.
Yeah.
So in that regard, it made me see the place completely differently.
In a different light.
Literally and figuratively.
Yeah.
But yeah, and then of course exposing it, and even the client was happy in that regard because they weren't really getting photos of the forest before. So I guess that's a smaller scale thing, but yeah, no doubt it's a challenge and something we all have to face. Even say wedding photographers, portrait guys.
Yeah.
You know, the brief is always, we want, say a wedding, they just want to look good and happy.
Yeah.
But let's face it, there's a lot of bridezillas out there,
and wedding,
and the nature comes into it with the lighting and
if you get a wet wedding and it's outdoors, there are people who are going to be unhappy, and so you just have to, I suppose, like what you did, look for the other areas that the conditions might highlight instead of what you're used to the conditions highlighting, or you wanted the conditions to highlight.
Yeah. This is the stuff that can make or break a photographer, and as time goes on, the more of these scenarios that happen, just the better you're just going to excel as a photographer, essentially, because you're just building a repertoire of tricks that you're going to be able to rely on, a bit of a tool bag there. So when situations arise in the future, you'll know you have ways to get around it, essentially.
Yeah.
Or you could just drop a fake sky into the shot. No, please don't do that. That's my pet hate.
No, what you've said, that's really actually inspired me, because
that's what I'm here
you
for,
go,
my friend.
But it's good practice almost. If you force yourself to shoot in these conditions that aren't ideal, if you wake up, check the sunrise, and it's not ideal,
and you go, I'll
conditions,
just wait.
And I say, I'm going back to bed. But if I pushed myself and went out and forced myself to work to not ideal conditions, you're going to be a better photographer.
A perfect example is when I run workshops, I'm taking people usually for a week straight in an amazing country. We almost inevitably get cloudy at least once or twice, or maybe more, rain, whatever.
Yeah.
And that's exactly what I say to the guys. I'm like, look, I know this is not what we necessarily wanted on this morning or whatever. However, in the future, when you travel again or even at home, this is what's going to happen. You're going to get these rainy days, and it's just so good to force yourself to get out into it and learn what you can do, whether it's black and whites or moody stuff or whatever it is, because the situation's going to arise again. And so many times you can just surprise yourself and get something that you totally didn't expect, and then it'll just encourage you next time to keep getting out there.
Yep.
And I know we've done it here locally. You wake up, you look out the window, and you just go, I'll go back to bed. And, the times that we go out anyway, because we're like, let's just go out for the sake of it. Let's just catch up. And you can just get surprised with what comes through. So.
Yeah. And I actually kind of love shooting in the rain.
If
you can stand the rain and you, speed up your shutter speed really quickly and you pick up some rain or something.
Or snow is the same. Even high winds, which are almost worse than rain, to be honest, sometimes. But what nature can do, those conditions, if you can capture them, you're showing people something that they're not used to seeing. Everyone's used to seeing pretty stuff, but if you can show that relentless power in nature, that's where people kind of remember it. But I guess to summarise, Trent, mate, just man up. And it's definitely tricky, but I think it's going to push your creativity and try and think outside the box. And I guess in this situation, when it comes to having a client, it's getting the client on board too, kind of getting them to trust you as the creative and saying, look, I know we're not getting what we were banking on here, but just go with me on this. And then it's all up to you as the photographer then to dig deep and see what you can do.
Yeah, and look...
Or if their budget's big enough, you just come back next time and try it.
And just look for those... look for the different things that those weather conditions might highlight instead of what the weather conditions you were hoping for would highlight.
Yeah.
Well, thanks, Trent. Did he provide a little contact if you want to check out his work? While you look at that, I'll say that if you want to submit your own question to us here, we The email is shootfirstpodcast@gmail.com. And yeah, we're reading them all. We're selecting, kind of the really interesting ones that we can have a bit of a conversation about. The ones that, matter to us, I suppose, that we think are good topics.
Yeah, and most of them have been killer. Like, it's stoked.
Yeah.
You guys putting questions in, and there's no silly questions.
Yeah.
Only silly people, as they say. But Trent's Instagram, he admittedly doesn't use Insta too much, but just Trent Blackmore, all one word. And it's just how it sounds, Trent Blackmore.
Yeah.
So thanks, man. Thanks for listening and
Thanks,
putting
Trent.
a question to us.
Well, yeah, that'll do us for this week. Your thoughts?
Cam's face then just looked like he was utterly exhausted. Rubbing his eyeballs and just not caring.
Nah,
and now that napkin
I'm
is
amped.
standing
I'm
out
ready.
to me.
I'm ready to go.
Yeah, but we'll wrap it up there. Kind of rambled on too long. Thanks so much for listening, guys.
Yeah.
And we'll catch you next week.
Cheers.